Batman number 3 continues Matt Fraction and Jorge Jimenez's current run, and it's a story that ratchets up both tension and stakes in Gotham, while also asking us a complex moral question. At the centre of the issue is Vandal Savage, who officially declared war on Batman at the end of the last issue, and he is not at all subtle about it. The last issue dealt with overzealous police officers operating under Vandal Savage's authoritarian control, who shot an unarmed man that had stolen baby formula and then tried to arrest Robin. Despite being handcuffed and under fire, Robin fought back with skill while Batman arrived to disable the police van and protect him. Upon Batman's arrival, the two officers disagreed about how to handle the situation and ended up shooting each other, one fatally. Batman and Robin's intervention highlights the consequences of unchecked authority, contrasting the officers' reckless aggression with Batman and Robin's strategic, morally grounded approach. But Vandal Savage saw this as an opportunity. The issue shows how Savage planted a batarang at the crime scene, deliberately framing Batman. To help validate his lies, he went as far as cutting off the oxygen supply of the surviving officer in the hospital to coerce cooperation. Savage clearly thinks he's untouchable, but what he doesn't realise is that a young boy was filming the scene from a nearby fire escape, and now he's got the evidence, which he hands over to a reporter. This could be a ticking time bomb for Savage, but given how corrupt Gotham is and how the press capitulate to his demands, it may end up not making much of a difference. Meanwhile, Tim Drake is in hospital after last issue's chaos. Batman visits him in the guise of Bruce Wayne and is greeted by Tim's boyfriend Bernard, who makes his disdain clear. Any boy's trip with Bruce Wayne always ends in injuries, so maybe he should call them off. Do you think Bernard knows his secret? It's been a while since I've read Robin's last ongoing series, but I have a vague recollection of Bernard being close to figuring out Tim's secret. Perhaps there will be more on this in the future. The issue also brings back Dr. Zeller, the Arkham doctor who had been treating Killer Croc in the first issue. On TV, she's showcasing her Crown of Storms, a headset designed to rewire the brains of the criminally insane. She debates Professor Hugo Strange, who's understandably disturbed what with him being insane, and not at all unhappy about it either. Strange points out that madness can be a gift. Would Van Gogh have painted Starry Night without his inner turmoil? Zeller counters that had her treatment existed in Van Gogh's lifetime, he could have lived to have painted hundreds of Starry Nights. Dr. Zeller's device is funded by Wayne Industries, unbeknownst to Batman. When he meets with his executives, he notes that he has no interest in chasing government contracts regardless of how profitable they might be. But Zeller's device shows promise, even if it won't make him a ton of money. His focus is on justice and practicality, not profit. It's a reminder that at heart Bruce Wayne is a moral billionaire, which at times seems even more far-fetched than a man dressing up as a bat and beating up criminals at night. At home, Damian has been accepted to Gotham City University 4 years early, which is a tremendous accomplishment. While Damian knows everything about combat, science and history, the real benefit of university will be the life experience he gains. Batman specifically notes that there will be girls at university. Now, I don't know about the rest of you, but I find the idea of 18-year-old girls dating a 14-year-old pretty gross, and hopefully it's unlikely to happen. Damian's response to his father's feedback is a swift kick to the balls. Checking in with the other supporting characters, Batman meets with Officer Gordon and Private Detective Harvey Bullock on a rooftop. The pair summoned Batman to tip him off that Savage's declaration of war isn't idle. He plans to use heavily armed special forces to take Batman down. Gotham's authorities are conflicted and the mayor pushes back, but it's only a matter of time before Savage asserts himself. A sequence showing Savage's troops nearly running over a pedestrian emphasises their ruthlessness, or at least their casual disregard for collateral damage. Meanwhile, the Riddler is back in the spotlight, breaking into Wayne Experimental Sciences to steal the Crown of Storms. He's unlike his past portrayals. Most recently, he was reimagined as a successful tech bro, and let's just ignore whatever's going on with the Riddler in the perpetually delayed Hush 2. But here he violently dispatches the security guards, babbling riddles and shouting non-stop. Batman debuts a new gadget in this issue, his stealth suit, which grants him invisibility akin to the Batman Beyond costume. True to comic book tradition, it also has a glowing yellow bat symbol when inactive, which, while impractical, really reminds me of the classic Kenner action figures strategy of releasing dozens of different Batman paint job variants with various attachments, and passing them off as new figures. I wasn't a fan of those figures as a child, but I think it makes sense for Batman to have a high-tech suit when in his experimental sciences building. Batman attempts to persuade Riddler to stop, but his obsession wins out. In the end, Batman sedates him with sedatax, another inventive Bat gadget, and takes the Riddler away. Riddler's final riddle, when ain't K haram, a double negative and an anagram, points Batman towards a disturbing conclusion. Dr. Zeller is testing the Crown of Storms on Arkham patients, which presumably explains the Riddler's erratic behaviour. This issue balances spectacle with a powerful ethical question. Even if we ignore the fact that Dr. Zeller's treatment clearly didn't work for the Riddler, I find myself agreeing with Hugo Strange. Please don't send me to Arkham. A scientific promise to fix madness by literally rewiring the brain sounds compassionate on paper. Imagine a world where people like Two-Face, Harley Quinn, or even the Joker could be cured of their obsessions, their pain, and their trauma. But Hugo Strange's objection reveals just how ethically fraught the idea is. If the state or a corporation defines normality, then treatment could become a tool of control. The same technology that could ease suffering could also be used to erase individuality, dissent, and complexity. The line between rehabilitation and lobotomy suddenly becomes terrifyingly thin. He also likens it to eugenics, and that's not an exaggeration. Eugenics was a real-world pseudoscience that sought to improve humanity by eliminating traits deemed undesirable, often tied to race, class, disability, or mental health. It led to forced sterilization, institutional abuse, and genocidal ideologies. By proposing a headset that overwrites minds, Zeller's invention carries the same dangerous undertone, the idea that imperfection, pain, or difference must be eradicated. Strange's point about Van Gogh's madness is not that suffering is good, but that identity and creativity are deeply tied to how our minds work, even when they're fractured. Of course, Zeller's counterpoint that Van Gogh might have painted hundreds of starry nights and lived a long, happy life if he'd had her treatment is compelling. Why romanticize suffering when you could prevent it? And that's what makes the Crown of Storms so problematic yet fascinating. It's a moral paradox. Too little intervention and people continue to suffer in cycles of trauma and violence. Too much and you risk stripping them of the very essence that makes them human. And Batman's ambivalence is telling. He sees both sides. As Bruce Wayne, he funds innovation and rehabilitation. As Batman, he's lived the trauma of trying to fix others, often through violence, and knows how easily good intentions turn monstrous. And then there's the device's name, the Crown of Storms. It carries this almost mythic weight as if it belongs to some ancient relic or a divine punishment. It sounds like something a god might wear to command thunder, or a cursed king might bear as penance. In mythological terms, a crown usually symbolizes authority, enlightenment, or divine right. It sits on the head, the seat of thought, control, and identity. So calling a neural rewiring device a crown is a bold statement. It's about dominion over the mind itself. Then there's the storm, which immediately reminds me of the opening of the first issue of this run, with Gotham desperately waiting for the storm to break the heatwave. How's that for some foreshadowing, eh? In literature and myth, storms represent turmoil, so the Crown of Storms implies that the wearer's mind becomes a tempest, and Zeller claims to harness that chaos to redirect it into calm. But there's something deeply ironic about that. She's trying to control storms, to bind nature itself, and that never ends well in myth, regardless of how good their intentions were. Whether it's Prometheus stealing fire or Icarus flying too close to the sun, humans who try to seize godlike control over nature, mind, or the soul are always punished for their hubris. Batman number 3 is available now from all good comic shops. I would encourage you to research your local comic shop, and if you don't have one, I'm certain there are dozens of good stores not too far from you that would be happy to mail you your comics. If you're opposed to the idea of cluttering up your home with comics, then you can get this specific comic digitally from places like Amazon, as well as Neon Ichiban, a new digital comic retailer from the founders of Comixology. Personally, I prefer physical comics, but I do like the convenience of having thousands of comics accessible on my phone. But you do what works best for you. For those keeping up with my struggles with storing all of these comics, you'll be sad to hear that I resisted ordering anything in Mile High Comics' recent 70% off sale. But the release of Batman Deadpool number 1 and its 18 million variant covers is getting closer and closer. Gulp. Next time. Given that Absolute Batman 14 has been delayed by 2 weeks so that they can add an extra 5 pages, I'll be back next week to talk about the next issue of Absolute Flash. In this issue, Wally and the Rogue storm Fort Fox to uncover the secrets of the organisation. Hope to see you then.